for you, no love for me. Material gain, it's nothing to gain. If you don't have yourself, you've got nothing to gain. Tell you already, material gain can bring many fame. Where is your gain if you don't have yourself? Oh, better take it easy. It's a daily deity, the transformation of all human and of a natural quality. Material gain, it's nothing to gain. If you don't have yourself, you have got nothing to gain. Get here, material gain, it's nothing to gain. Where is your gain if you don't have yourself? Material gain, transformation of the world. If you don't have yourself, you've got nothing to gain. Material gain can bring many fame. Where is your gain if you don't have yourself? Material gain, material gain, material gain, material gain, material gain.
Hear, O Rastafari and Integumen's children, and give ear unto their word. For their lineage shall be forever, and his law shall not be abolished. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, as the fire devour the stubble, and the flames consumes the chaff. Their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust. Because they have cast away the law of the holy universal order and Mother Earth, they despise the word of the children of light. The leaders of the people have caused them to go astray, and they that are led of them shall be destroyed. For they are hypocrites and evildoers, and their mouths speak folly. Wickedness burns like a fire, it shall devour them. It shall kindle in the thick of the forest, and shall mount up like the lifting up of smoke. Through the wrath of the law shall the land be darkened. For this man has brought upon himself. But I and I are confident in the victory of good over evil. Selah.
I
Why boast thyself in mischief, O foolish man? The goodness of Rastafari and Earth Mother endures forever. The tongue of the wicked divides mischief like a sharp razor, working deceitfully, playing smart without knowledge. They love evil more than good and lying in the face of truth. Their words are devouring, and they speak with a deceitful tongue. Rastafari and Earth Mother shall likewise destroy them and pluck them out of their dwelling place and root them out of the land of the living, Selah. The righteous shall also see it and fear not, for I and I have seen their disrespect for the universal law of love, peace and equality. These are the ones that made not Rastafari and Integwe men in their strength, but trusted in the abundance of their riches and strengthened themselves in wickedness. But I and I are like the green olive tree in the house of Rastafari and Integwe Menin. I and I work and trust in the mercy of Saint Mariam and the peace of Integwe Menin. I and I shall praise and honour the I forever, Almighty El Shaddai Rastafari, Integwe Menin, Saint Mariam and Earth Mother. That I have strengthened I and I out of the hands of the wicked, and in the meaning of the covenant of mercy, I and I are armed with justice, peace, equality, love, and security for the world. The eye of Rastafari sharpened and shall cut them down for the love of the I people, even though it's brutal out there. Selah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yo, yo, yo. Man, me say it brutal out there. But cool Jaman, cool Jaman. Yo, yo, yo. Man, me say it brutal out there. Cool Jaman, cool Jaman. If I should feed one child and starve the other, I'd rather be down with my brothers and sisters. 'Cause a hungry man is an hungry man, and a drowning man will catch at a strand. Oh, yo, yo. Man, me say it brutal out there. Cool Jaman, cool Jaman. Yo, yo, yo. Man, me say it brutal out there. But if it cool Jaman, cool Jaman. Man cannot live by only bread, but every man must be fed. Never try to bite the hands that feed you, 'cause the good things you do will live with you. The man got to practice what them preach. Nowadays, else you never reach the land where there's no night, it's only day. Yo, yo, yo. Man, me say it brutal out there. But if it cool Jaman down in a earth, yo, yo, yo.
earth is mother of all human beings, and everyone was created independent and equal. Equality is the foundation of freedom. Where there is equality, there are opportunities. Perfect love walks with equality, breaking down the barriers of hate and selfishness. More equality, more hope, creating a perfect balance. Equality is the soul of liberty. The vision is social equality. It is the basis of human happiness. The only stable state is the one in which all people are equal and free before the law. Without them, order cannot endure for long. Where there is no truth, justice, and peace, equality cannot dwell there because everything is based on lies. Equality is the essence of freedom and justice. No one can take it from I and I. No one can give it to I and I. For I and I are equality, freedom, justice, and peace. A great nation is one in which justice, equality, and dignity prevails for all. Everyone has an equal right to live and be free, no matter what color or class they may be. Remember, I and I are all flesh and blood. Pick up the eye brother or sister. Never leave them in the mud, for everyone has an equal right to live and be free. Sila.
Love your brother, love your sisters, love one another. 'Cause everyone has an equal right to live and be free. No matter what color, class, or race they may be. Treat them right, Lord, and now treat them good. Take a tip from me, don't hang them on the tree. Never give against another man. 'Cause everyone has an equal right to live and be free. No matter what color, class, or race they may be. Remember, oh, we're all one flesh and blood. Keep your brother up, don't push him in the mud. Never give against another man. Love your brothers, love your sisters, love one another. 'Cause everyone has an equal right to live and be free. No matter what color, class, or race they may be. Treat them right, Lord, and love, treat them good. Take a tip from me, don't hang him on a tree. Never give against another man. 'Cause everyone has an equal right to live and be free. No matter what color, class, or race they may be. Everyone has an equal right to live and be free. No matter what color, class, or race they may be. Love, international love. Love your brothers, love your sisters. I say one love, international love. Love your brothers, love your sisters.
When the invaders entered I and I continent, this is what they said. We have not seen one person who is a beggar or who is a thief. Such wealth we've never seen in our country, such high moral values, people of such high caliber, no thieves, no prison. We did not think we would ever conquer this continent unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. Therefore, we propose that we replace her old and ancient education system and her culture. For if they think all that is foreign are good, they will lose their self-esteem, their tradition, their culture, and lust after what we give them. They will become what we want them to be, a truly dominated nation. They set a system to keep the families fighting whilst they loot and rejoice in the taking of lives. Their outer life appears good whilst their inward thoughts are greedy, unsatisfied, unforgiving, ungrateful, evil, and self-seeking. I stopped and I did meditate. For when a trap is set, I avoid it. I walk in truth. For I know that every bad and negative act lowers and weakens I moral values connected to the universe, and I shall never forget who I are. Therefore, let I thoughts and actions be creative and nourished by I works, as a seed planted in good soil shall blossom and bear fruits. Refill and tune in and channel positivity. Release the addictive chain. There is a mountain of learning. Climb without doubt and fear. Determination fits perfectly. Respect, faith, and courage are safe steps to take. Old bad habits are easily erased with good vision. A good imagination makes life so beautiful as the mind is showing the universe a picture of I heart's desire. Only good pictures are accepted. I shall rise again and keep rising to the top. Sila.
The problem is not when you fall, you know. The problem is when you fall and fail to rise. Because some of the most successful people on earth have a story. And when you hear some people's story, if you do hear some of them story, you would have more accept and appreciate them glory. Real.
We smile, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. I said we will rise again. We cry, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. And this time wiser than them.
Anyway you see me is a educational class. Let the future be the focus, but don't forget the past. Cause if you know not where you're coming from, that means that you're lost. Only the truth can set I free, so that I won't bypass. Step on a mission like soldier, battlefield warrior, surely. Step in it, act like I Nick Mosey. From you do the right thing, you must get the glory. Listen to me story.
I know every day harvest. Me say me been through the hardest. Among some people were heartless, but man I hold it regardless. Me know me life still buffering, but man I hold it through the suffering. Me really hold it through the suffering. Me never think about fi run, we're gonna foreign. We smile, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. I said we will rise again. We cry, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. And this time wiser than them.
I said no man at all should no face poverty, but we have a lot of faith and no strategy. Some are wait for divine intervention. White collar criminal a play with like monopoly. Who feels it knows, who knows it feels. The ones who can do better at to them me. Some youth are tough like steel until the men up a steal. You better teach them for cook instead of give them the
I know
meal.
every day harvest. Me say me been through the hardest. Among some people were heartless, but man I hold it regardless. Me know me life still buffering, but man I hold it through the suffering. Me really hold hold it through the suffering. Me never think about fi run, we're gonna foreign. We smile, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. I said we will rise again. We cry, we ball, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. And this time wiser than them. We cry, we ball, we rise, we fall, we will rise again. I said we will rise again. We cry, we bow, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. And this time wiser than them. I said we cry, we bow, we rise, we fall, but we will rise again. 9-10, we'll rise again. We cry, we bawl, we rise, we fall. I said we will rise again. And this time wiser than them. I said this time wiser than. I said this time wiser than. Rastafari, hey DJ Whistle. Oh, 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 oh. We will rise again. We will rise again. We will rise again. We will rise.
Give thanks for the eye ears family. Hope the eye full joy the Psalms. Now taking I and I into Psalms and songs were parables from Sir Deeds and I with Rise Again song, Boogle, a single. Love Psalms with Love Affair song, the Itals from their album Give Me Power. Psalms 19 with Jag Glory song, the Itals, a 12-inch single on the Nighthawk record label. Gratitude Parables, Sir Deeds and I with Material Gain song, the Itals from their album Give Me Power. Psalms 51 with Physical Pollution song, the Itals from their album Give Me Power. Psalms 121 with Nakal Dread Neum song, the Itals from their Grammy-nominated album Rasta Philosophy. Prophecies with In Their song, the Itals from their album Give Me Power. Equality Utterance with Equal Rights song, Leroy Sibbles from the album Rocksteady, The Roots of Reggae. Now sealing up Psalms and Song is Rasta Philosophy song, the Itals from their Grammy-nominated album of the same name, Rasta Philosophy, and remembering Ronnie Davis and Lloydie Ricketts. Together with Keith Porter, they are the Itals, three of the greatest Jamaican vocalists. The Itals performed at the Temple in Tottenham on the 7th of November 2000 with their band from Jamaica, first time performing together for 20 years as the original Itals. They were on the front page of the Gleaner for Two Strongs, Michael Oban's article, Give Thanks Michael. They performed alongside Max Romeo and his 13-piece band, Nazarite Group and Rassides, a Nazarite promotion presentation with Entebbe Sound System. Ireful greetings going out to Ras Lawi, Jimmy, Mikey, Asher C and the Entebbe family, Culture the Master Chef, Sabu, Sister Angela from Reading, and my brethren Mikey, giving thanks for a great night not to be forgotten. Rasta Philosophy, Itals, remembering Ronnie Davis and Uncle Lloyd Ricketts, two of the most sincere brothers in the music world, never to be forgotten, and saying ireful greetings to Keith Porter, who resides in the US, and sending out love to Otis Madrama, Princess Nins, Princess Hannah. Give thanks, my darlings, for the I commitment, the I love, and the I strength. Princess B, strong greetings coming up. Fireman, darling, love and respect and give thanks. Now, family, one correction. Psalms 52 was with Brutal Out There song, Itals, taken from their album Brutal Out There. Physical Pollution is coming later. One Perfect Love. Itals.
Iyata, your daughter from Ethiopian border, I come.
Blessed are your eyes that have seen, and your ears that living water and you will never thirsty. Them say that the half have never been told. So you fi come out with your heart and soul. Don't be hypnotized. Only the fittest of the fittest must survive. 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 Got to stay alive. We got to survive. Treading through the valleys of the shadows of the wicked, we fear no weaver. Tell them we fear no foe. So we don't care about them sound and the pressure. In this tradition there is no measure. We got to survive. We got to survive. We got to survive. Tell them we got to survive.
Now, family, it's time for Majesty's speech. Haile Selassie first speaks of peace, and I quote, "The major challenges confronting the world today are two: the preservation of peace and the betterment of living conditions of that half of the world which are poor. These are, of course, mutually interdependent. Without peace, it is futile to talk of improving man's lot, and without such improvements, the task of guaranteeing peace is rendered manifold more difficult. The assault on these two problems must be made simultaneously, and all our actions should be taken with an eye to the solutions of both. Where a real and effective disarmament is achieved, and the fund now spent on the arms race devoted to the amelioration, which means an act of making something better, improvement of man's state, and were we to concentrate only on the peaceful uses of nuclear knowledge, how vastly and in how short a space of time might we change the conditions of mankind? This should be our goal. There is no doubt that the wealth wasted in the destructions of humans could, if properly utilized, have contributed enormously towards the welfare of and the worldwide advancement of civilization. Contrary to certain notions that the preservation of world peace is in the exclusive preserve of the great powers, the question of war or peace, because it involves the survival of humanity, it is one that is intimately and vitally connected with all the peoples of the world. When we talk of the equality of man, we find also a challenge, an opportunity to breathe new life into the ideas enshrined in the Charter, an opportunity to bring man closer to freedom and true equality, and thus closer to the love of peace," unquote. Selah. His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie first speaks of peace.
And I must prosper that love, Jah. Love be within thy walls and prosperity within thy policies. For I, brethren, thy companions say, I will now say, love be within thee. Because of the house of the living I, Jah, Rastafari, and I will now seek thy good forever.
If them want to win the revolution, they have to win it with Rasta. You can't win no other way. Because if you win other way, you have to fight again. When you Rasta win, there's no more war.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The things we dwell upon in our minds with affection or take to our hearts in fear are the things that are finally built into our character. The things we think of with love or fear determine not only our characters, but our circumstances and our environment as well. The uncontrolled thought, The drifting life, the past mistakes, all can be obliterated by forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before, and pressing toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of the Most High in Rastafari.
Sealing up Haile Selassie First speech is the Idols with Heathens, taken from their album Cool and Dread, and sending out love to Keith Porter and his family who reside in the USA. Hope that I are safe and warm. Giving thanks to Sir Dees for the parables, ireful greetings Ronnie Doc, Mas Baptist, Sister Monica Sinclair, all slrradio.co.uk family, one perfect love. Heathens, the mighty Idols.
Forget about your sorrow and your worry. Forget about your trouble and your problems. Forget all the hard times you've been through. One and all, I'm depending on you. Rastafari God, yeah. I'm saying Rastafari God, yeah. There'll be no more fighting, no cheating, backbiting. Tell it to your agent what you really think about him. Tell them there'll be song to sing, and there'll be singers and players of instruments. Be there, prepare. I'm saying be there. Rastafari God. Be there. Rastafari God. Forget about your sorrow and your worries. Forget about your trouble and your problems. Forget all the hard times you've been through. One and all, I'm depending on you. Rastafari God. Rastafari God. There'll be no more fighting, no cheating, backbiting. Tell it to your agent what you really think about him. Tell them there'll be song to sing, there'll be singers and players of instruments. Be there, prepare. Be there. Rastafari God. This is for the heathen. Rastafari God. I'm saying heathen. Rastafari God. Whoa, heathen. Rastafari God.
Sending out love to Sister Debbie Judah and her family, Sister Yamani and her family. Hope all is well with the eye. Sister Amber and Meshach family, how are the eye? One perfect love to the eye. Sister Lazuli, hope the eye is well. Now family, it's time for Saint Mariam's praises. Reading from her book Saint Mariam, the Perpetual Virgin, and her mother Hannah, looted from Magdala, Ethiopia by General Napier in 1868. Found in the British Library, Museum of Mankind, Windsor Castle, India House, Oxford and Eton University in the Ethiopian collection. St. Mariam of Zion Church is in Aksum, Ethiopia. She's honoured and prayed to by all the Orthodox churches worldwide. Seymour MacLean liberated this book from the British Library. He's known as the Book Liberator. Now, St. Mariam's praises, read on a Thursday, and I quote, I and I magnify the eye, O I and I Lady, the bearer of Ayasu, the Almighty, the Nazarene. Let the eye compassion be over I and I. O Holy Virgin, the eye is the boast of I and I. Through the eye was the curse of the older times, which rested upon I and I race, destroyed. The door of the garden, which was shut fast, has been opened to I and I again. It is allotted to I and I to eat from the tree of life. Because of his love for I and I, he came and delivered I and I. What overstanding, and what language, and what hearing can comprehend this mystery, which must be proclaimed to be wonderful? Ayasu the Nazarene, the lover of his children, one is he alone, the Word, the Father, who is the only begotten Son, who came and was incarnate of the eye, O holy woman, Saint Mariam, Soliana, his mother. After she brought him forth, her virginity perished not, and because of this it manifested that she was the bearer of the Most High, Ayasu Christ the Nazarene. Oh, deep is the richness of the wisdom of Ayasu. The womb which he decreed should bring forth children is the fountain of life, and has brought forth without the seed of man him who removed the curse from I and I race. Glory be unto the eye, O Holy Father of I and I, the Redeemer, the Word of I and I soul, Ayasu Christ the Nazarene. I and I magnify the eye of Saint Mariam, mother of Ayasu the Nazarene. Selah. Sealing up Saint Mariam's praises is Baldhead Jesus, Bunny Wailer, taken from his album Liberation. And imagine that, family. This book has been in the possession of the British Library Museum of Mankind from 1868. And they never told I and I about it. Praise and honor be to the eye, Ayasu the Nazarene. And for all those who think Rasta just wear their locks as a statement or for fun, it's spiritual, it's a way of life. And I and I walk in the image of Ayasu the Nazarene, who said I would come again and sit upon the throne of my son Dawit, in whom I'm well pleased. Haile Selassie first, Rastafari, Baldhead Jesus, from the album Liberation, Bunny Wailer.
Praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him. He's the King of Kings. I have never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. I have never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. He is a humble and dreadlock Nazarene man. Look in yourselves and try to understand why you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. Hey, all the bald-head Jesus followers start to fret. All the bald-head Jesus followers start to sweat. He said to follow him and he will make me just leave the barber shop and gone back again. And you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. There is no synagogue that was built by Jesus Christ. There is no synagogue that was built by Jesus Christ. He taught on the hill and in the valley, performing miracles and didn't get no pay. No synagogue that was built by Jesus Christ. Sing along, he by the old time religion. He by the old time religion. He by the old time religion. Cause it is good enough for I. If it was good for Moses and Aaron, if it was good for David and Solomon, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, then it is good enough for I. Yeah. Hey, study Numbers chapter 6 and tell I what you've seen. Cause it was written in the Bible of the dreadlock Nazarene. Now don't you put away the old for the new. Cause if you do, Jah will turn his back on you. It was written in the Bible that Christ was a Nazarene. Hey, every apostle of Christ was a dreadlock-bearded man. Every apostle of Christ was a dreadlock Ethiopian. This is a message to all church and denomination. Respect is due to the dreadlock Rasta man. Cause you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. Hey, I have never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. I have never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. He is a humble and dreadlock Nazarene man. Look in yourselves and try to understand why you never seen the image of a bald-head Jesus yet. Oh yes, he by the old time religion. He by the old time religion. He by the old time religion. Cause it is good enough for I. If it was good for Moses and Aaron, if it was good for David and Solomon, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, then it is good.
Time to rock knowledge, family. Can you be dismissed for refusing corona vaccine? Here is Daniel Barnett, barrister in the UK. Let I listen very carefully. One love.
Can your employer force you to have the coronavirus vaccine? I'm Daniel Barnett, a barrister in England and Wales, and in this video we're going to be discussing three things. The choices that might be presented to you: get vaccinated or get dismissed. The cold, hard reality facing you if your employer instructs you to be vaccinated, and what sort of claims you'll have if you're dismissed following opting not to get vaccinated and being dismissed as a result. Now, this sounds obvious, but it does need saying. An employer can't compel you to get vaccinated in the sense that it can't pin you down to the floor, kneel on you, stab a needle in your arm and press the plunger. Of course, an employer cannot force you to get vaccinated in that sense. The sort of choice you're likely to face is the employer coming to you and saying, if you don't get vaccinated, we're going to dismiss you. And they'll give you lots of opportunities and they'll talk to you a lot about it first, but ultimately it comes down to a hard, final, binary choice for you. Do you agree to get vaccinated or do you get dismissed? So can your employer say, if you don't get vaccinated, we're going to dismiss you? Before I give you the answer, there's just one other point that I want to make clear. Although it might be unlawful for your employer to dismiss you in certain circumstances, that doesn't mean they can't. They can dismiss you. The dismissal will be effective You'll have no money coming in unless you get another job. You can then go and bring an employment tribunal claim, and 12 months later you might get compensation. But there's absolutely nothing that an employee can ever do, save in the rarest circumstances, which almost certainly aren't going to arise here, to stop themselves being actually dismissed, as long as they're paid their notice pay. So the short answer to the question is that your employer may be able to dismiss you if you don't agree to a vaccination. It's just that you might be able to sue them afterwards and get compensation. So will you have any claims if you're dismissed for refusing a vaccine? Well, I think there are 3 things to think about here. Number 1, vaccine hesitancy is not a protected characteristic like sex, race, age, disability. They're all protected characteristics, and under the Equality Act, an employer can't treat you less favourably or dismiss you because of those protected characteristics. But vaccine hesitancy, the reluctance to be vaccinated, is not a protected characteristic. A disabled person might be able to mount an argument that vaccinating them is dangerous because of their disability, and so dismissing them because of their refusal to be vaccinated is dismissing them for a reason associated with their disability. But that would require a quite unusual and quite specific set of facts to bring that claim, and it's not going to be the case for the overwhelming majority of people. A Muslim employee might be able to argue that dismissal for refusing the injection discriminates against them because the vaccine contains pork, gelatine, and so offends the laws of halal and discriminates indirectly on grounds of disability. I don't actually know whether the Pfizer or the other vaccines contain pork gelatin. I have tried to find out. I couldn't find that information anywhere. But if they do, that argument is theoretically open to a Muslim employee. But with both the disability discrimination claim and the religious discrimination claim, the employer is still going to be able to justify that discrimination if it can show it has a good reason for requiring the whole workforce to get vaccinated. And there are lots of really complex factors here that come in on which, if you were running this argument, you'd need to get specific legal advice. So that's the first point. You're unlikely to have any sort of discrimination claim. What about unfair dismissal? Well, the second point is that unfair dismissal rights only bite if you've worked for more than 2 years. So if you've worked for less than 2 years, if you've got less than 2 years continuity of employment, you just won't have an unfair dismissal claim. There are a few exceptions to the 2-year rule, for example, in whistleblowing dismissals, but this isn't really going to fit into any of those exceptions. If you haven't got 2 years employment, you can't bring an unfair dismissal claim, which unfortunately means there is nothing you can do legally if you're dismissed because your employer said, have the vaccine or we'll dismiss you. So that's the second point. If you've got less than 2 years service, you really don't have a claim, I'm afraid. If you weren't paid your notice when you were dismissed, you'd have a claim for that, but that's really the size of it. Number 3, if you have worked for more than 2 years, then you'd have an unfair dismissal claim open to you, and you'd be arguing that the employer's decision to dismiss you for refusing to take the vaccine is unreasonable in all the circumstances. Now, it's going to take a year before this is tested in the tribunals, because it takes about a year for cases to get to tribunal. But for now, I think the unfair dismissal claim is actually quite a strong argument. I think it's quite compelling to argue that the employer has acted unreasonably in dismissing somebody for refusing the vaccine because of a combination of 4 factors. First of all, one's got to remember the point that employers just can't compel vaccination, in the sense they can't legally insist and get an injunction to require somebody to be vaccinated. So if you can't compel somebody to do something that is intrusive into their bodily integrity, it would be bizarre if that could be enforced by the back route, by the back door, by being allowed to dismiss somebody as a result of refusing to consent. That's not the best argument, but it's the starting point for the next 3 arguments, which are better. Second of all, it's almost certainly an interference with the Human Rights Act and the European Convention of Human Rights. Article 8 says everybody has a right to respect for their private life. Now, injecting somebody with a vaccine, on the face of it, breaches that respect for private life. It breaches your bodily integrity. And tribunals are not going to be impressed by employers who say, well, we have to make somebody breach their bodily integrity, we have to interfere with private life because we really, really want it. Number 3, A small but significant proportion of the population does have real concerns about the side effects of the vaccination and about the fact they believe it hasn't been tested as thoroughly as it should have been. There is nevertheless a small proportion of the workforce that genuinely and reasonably has those concerns. And a tribunal isn't going to like employers dismissing people for refusing to have injections when they reasonably believe those injections could be dangerous. And number 4, linked to that, a tiny proportion of the population may have adverse reactions to the vaccination. We cannot rule out some people will have side effects. It's going to be very hard for a tribunal to say that the employer is acting reasonably in dismissing for a refusal to have that vaccination and risk potential bodily harm, even if the risk is believed to be very, very low. So I think an unfair dismissal claim would have a decent chance of winning if you're dismissed because of a refusal to take the vaccination. Now, of course, you'll be out of a job by then. You'll have been unemployed for a year or so, which is the amount of time it takes to get a tribunal case to court. And the maximum a tribunal can award is 1 year's pay for this sort of unfair dismissal claim. So you're not going to be getting rich at the end of it. You'll get up to a year's salary, and it will take the best part of a year to get there. And unless you get a new job pretty quickly, you're going to have suffered a very, very difficult economic time while unemployed because you refused to take the vaccine. So the litigation route is not an ideal answer to the problem. It's not giving you an enormous shield to the employer who says, take the vaccination or be dismissed. Because you can still be dismissed. Yes, you might get compensation a year down the line, but it's not going to protect you and help you during that year that you're unemployed. Now, there is an exception to my views on what I've just said. I do think that organisations like the NHS, organisations like care homes, are going to be in a much stronger position to justify a dismissal of somebody who's refused to have the vaccination. Because in those organisations, it's mission critical to make sure that the workforce is immunised and to make sure that the workforce isn't passing the infection on to residents of care homes, to patients within the NHS, etc. It's much more mission critical to make sure that everybody is vaccinated. So I think those sorts of employers would be in much stronger positions to win an unfair dismissal claim if you brought one against them having been dismissed. They would need to show they tried to redeploy you to a non-front line role where it wouldn't matter so much if you were vaccinated. But as long as they could show they tried to redeploy you, there was nothing available, or you'd refused redeployment, I think an NHS trust, a care home, a similar organisation would have a strong defence to an unfair dismissal claim for dismissing you for refusing a vaccination. I also just want to mention the position of anti-vaxxers. Now, there's a big difference between an anti-vaxxer and someone who is vaccine hesitant. The vaccine hesitant person is anxious, is nervous, maybe put off the thought of a vaccine because of the uncertainty surrounding it. The anti-vaxxers are more strident and more militant in their objection, not only to themselves having the vaccine, but to others as well. So if an employer employs an evangelical anti-vaxxer, someone who's shouting from the rooftop, shouting in social media, going on interviews and saying, don't get vaccinated, it's unwise, it's dangerous, it carries risks, maybe the government's trying to implant some bizarre sort of chip into you. If the NHS or a similar organisations, or possibly even any public sector or well-regarded public-facing private sector employer employs an evangelical anti-vaxxer, I think that employer will be in a much stronger position to say, we're not continuing to employ you because your anti-vax message is inconsistent with our organisation's values. But short of that, I think most employees from most organisations who are dismissed for refusing to have the COVID vaccination would have a decent unfair dismissal claim. If you'd like to know a little bit more about how you bring an unfair dismissal claim in an employment tribunal, there's lots of good websites that can help you. But one I'd particularly recommend as a starting point is the ACAS website. That's www.acas.org.uk/dismissals.
Daniel Barnett giving I a balanced reasoning, right, family? And one thing to note also, reported on the BBC News last night, that the rich are getting richer since the coronavirus. Now, sealing up Daniel Barnett's reasoning is physical pollution from the Idols, taken from their album, Give Me Power, One Perfect Love, family.
Some say they are freer than ever can be, but the one cannot be free until he's free from mental slavery, free from moral destruction and this cultural exploitation. Most people don't really understand why the Almighty created man. Man wasn't born to see destruction, but to this physical immoral pollution. Every day it's a physical immoral pollution. Yeah. Every day it's all I see, and that means living no longer physically, morally. Oh, he who knows and pretend that he don't know. Jah is the one who was rejected and despised. The peace may break away, but the truth must stand. It's only Jah can stop this revolution. Can't stand this physical immoral pollution. Every day it's a physical immoral pollution. Don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong when I say it's a physical immoral pollution. Every day it's a physical immoral pollution. Don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. No, no, when I say it's a physical immoral pollution. Yeah, it's a physical immoral pollution. Every day it's a physical immoral pollution.
Guidance in a new strong selector G, Rankin D, Go, Ballet Eye, Patrick D, Sister Rosebud, looking forward. And join John every Saturday morning, opening the musical gate with a classic selection. Mikey Dread, Channel 1 sound system in session every Tuesday from 6 to 8, not forgetting Minister Collins. Thursday link up with Bless FM, Rasta Pastor Raga D, How Are the I? And sending out ireful greetings and giving thanks to DJ Cowboy. He is with I and I on the night shift with sweet music every Sunday from the hours of 12 to the breaking of fast, and strong days for breakfast from 8 till 10. Love, strength, guidance and protection to the DJ Cowboy, and to all I and I business places. Rastolist has the I Bellyful, DJ One, Juicy Roots Family, Elijah Kitchen, Tottenham Town Bakery, and all I and I business places. Not forgetting the Roti Shop. Enough love and strength to the I family. Kevin, Scotty, Rascliffy, Principal Danite, Sister B, how is the I? Lady Itel and her family. I hope all is well. Blacks, Fuddy, Josh Shepherd, Ras Lester, Tuffy, Irie, Uriah, Jesse, Danny, Sister Nafia and her family, Sister Merlin, and to all slrradio.co.uk UK family. Cheddar Man, Queen Charlotte and Lupita, sealed up with the choice of colour song, Heptones, with lead vocalist Leroy Sibbles, Ireful Erstrong to the eye. And I know this is Father B's, one of Father B's favourite songs, Remembering the I, Father B, One Love Ballet.
Let's move on to Cheddar Man, because we don't have very much time, and I know we're all keen to talk about it. He is all over the front pages. This is a reconstruction, isn't it, of a skeleton that was found in the Cheddar Gorge, hence his name.
Cheddar Man, not a superhero, but a skeleton. Found in 1903, has puzzled people for, fascinated people for over 100 years. an extraordinary bit of scientific work has come to the conclusion that he had dark skin. He is the first modern Briton. So there were humans in Britain before Cheddar Man. They all died out, probably eaten by the dinosaurs or something. Anyway, he was the first of the new generation from whom we are all descended.
Amazing.
And he was black, or certainly had dark skin. So that has to make us all redefine our entire racial
and I think it's absolutely amazing. What they say is that, look, people be surprised and it will make immigrants feel a bit more involved. And it's a reminder, we are all immigrants. So to all the kind of racist people out there, not only are you nasty, but you're incredibly ignorant about your biological heritage.
And Cheddar Man wasn't dealing, we have to explain this very quickly, how Cheddar Man, how I'm white, but I'm related to Cheddar Man, who was black.
Dr. Stephanie Myers recently published a book called Invisible Queen, Mixed Ancestry Revealed. It details the life of the first black British royal, Sophia Charlotte, Queen of England. And we welcome Dr. Myers to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I was just showing off to our panel that I've had the book for a while now, and was so excited when the news came out, and to be able to get you on the show. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm not going to give away the details because we want to hear it from you, but tell us a little bit about Queen Charlotte, because she was fascinating.
Queen Charlotte was fascinating, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. She was born of a family over in Germany that was kind of a noble family. Her mom, of course, was mixed race, and when you look at pictures of her brother and her mom in our book, you can see that. And so when King George was ready to get married, his family decided we need to find someone special for him.
Yes.
And they literally recruited all through Europe to interview women to see who would be the right wife. And they came up with Charlotte. They had no idea, she'd never met George, and they sent out an emissary to meet with her family. So George, I think, was a little bit of a trick. You know, he had some girlfriends on the side, and the family wasn't liking him too much, and his mom, the Dowager Augusta, she's like, this isn't going to work. So after they checked Charlotte out, she was educated, she'd been to school, she'd learned languages.
She spoke several languages, didn't she?
She spoke at least 4 languages, German, French, English, she learned later, and she was really a talented woman, a musician, and they looked and said, wow, this girl has it all. So they brought her to England, and she was married, and he had his coronation as king right within the same time period, and Charlotte became the queen.
And am I correct that she, although in Germany, was a descendant of a black Portuguese family?
Her mother was the descendant of a woman who was a concubine, as they say,
yes,
of one of the Portuguese kings. But we know that the Moors were big in Portugal.
Yes.
That's part of our black history.
Yes.
They use the word Moor, but what that really means is African black.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Negro, Moor,
Well,
African
and they've
black.
got her picture up on the screen now. If you take a look at her hair, that's a dead giveaway. We've got a beautiful black woman.
Well, when I ran across her on the internet, totally by accident, and it said Queen of England for 57 years, I'm like, how could this possibly be?
It was never taught, at least in my school, it was never taught in history. I didn't even hear about Queen Charlotte at my beloved Howard University.
Yes.
Well, because I wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Because you would have heard about it. And really, that's my question, Dr. Myers, the political implications. People seem to think that black folks fought in the American Revolution for George Washington, but in fact, one of the reasons 13 colonies left was because Britain was talking about abolishing slavery and elevating Africans to citizenship in their colonies. Did Charlotte play a role in this? Charlotte of Mecklenburg. I mean, did she?
Charlotte absolutely did. She became very good friends with the leaders of the abolitionist movement. Granville Sharp was the biggest voice for abolition. And so even though she's queen and all this Atlantic slave trade is going on, Charlotte was part of the anti-saccharin movement, which was anti-sugar, because the whole sugar trade was a big part of the plantation. Our ancestors were enslaved to go work on these sugar plantations.
And particularly in the Caribbean, I mean everywhere, but particularly in the Caribbean where the Brits were involved with slavery.
Absolutely.
Sugar was king.
Sugar was king, so there's a cartoon of Charlotte in our book where she's sitting around the table with her kids and she's saying, no sugar, and her kids are all frowned up. And they ran this cartoon, and in that picture, she really looks black.
Yes.
There's no question. And it was the anti-saccharin movement. So what they did is they brought pictures of Charlotte to the slaves on the plantations in Virginia, and they said, look, if King George is married to her,
Wow.
He must be all right. Come join the British side and we'll take you to Canada and you'll be free. So there was this influx of about thousands of enslaved people who ran away
30,000 in
response.
Virginia. Lord
Yes.
Dunmore and all those cats. You got to come for a book signing, Howard. We gotta have it.
Absolutely. I love this. Do you have a question?
Question: how is she remembered in the British monarchy? I mean, how is she comparative to some of the queens we know from this generation of Queen Elizabeth, of course? But how is she referred to?
That's why we call the book The Invisible Queen. They just overlook her. They talk about
Do they overlook her, or do they overlook the fact that she was black?
Well, that's
Or is it both?
It's the whole mixed race thing. In America, one drop of blood puts you in slavery.
Yeah.
There were black nobility all through Europe, not just in England, but in other countries as well. So the British knew, you know, then the courts, they would say, you know, she's kind of got that mulatto face. Oh, she kind of looks kind of funny, her lips are thick and her nose. This is all written down and we have that in here. And so they knew that there was this heritage. But in exchange for her talent and her skills, they just kind of went with it and it was all right. But this woman, Queen Charlotte, and this is why I really grew to love her as I wrote this story, she was so talented. She was a botanist. You know, today we talk about having gardens and growing our herbs. Prince Charles today is curator of the Kew Gardens, which she really expanded and helped make happen. So she was really smart about that. She had 15 children. This woman had 15 children. Now, 2 of them died as infants, but the other 13 made it to adulthood. And one of the stories that really blew my mind, you ask how come we don't know about her, she discovered Mozart. Mozart was 8 years old, and his parents brought him to the castle, and he played for her. And she said, this is talent. She recognized the talent and became his patron. And
black
Mozart,
women are not a joke.
Black girl magic. Black woman magic.
Okay, black woman magic.
Patron, yeah.
Exactly.
Spencer,
Real empire, though.
Spencer, a question for Dr. Myers.
Yes, so we talk about Charlotte, North Carolina. If you could tell us a little bit about the connection to Charlotte, and then also, what's this mean in terms of Harry? How is Charlotte related to Harry?
Okay, well, Charlotte, North Carolina is known as the Queen City, and that's Charlotte. Charlottesville, and there are places all over the world named for her. In New Zealand, there are places, in Canada.
Well, I'm sorry, but you just said something that like set off sound bells, because I'm thinking about the Charlottesville rally,
No question.
and the racists down there with their tiki torches.
That's right. But Violaus is now in Charlotte.
But marching in her city.
That's right.
And they don't know their history.
Yes,
and
at all.
unfortunately, we don't know enough of our history.
You're right, Michelle. That's
And
the
we
first time
simply
we heard
have to get the story out. And it's so important for our young people to read our book and to read history and realize we're not new to the table.
Right.
Now, sure, we've had some wonderful success stories, and we're all proud of President Obama and the First Lady and what they've done, and now we're going to have this girl in the royal family. All of these things are important, but what's important also is someone can come from something very modest, go to school, learn, get sharp, and then push their way into into power and influence,
and
that's
take over
exactly
the world.
what she did.
I am being told that we have to go to the break, but tell us quickly, how can people buy your book?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have a website, MyersPublishing.com. www.myerspublishing.com is
Another
our website.
black woman who is the master of her own
That's
fate.
right.
MyersPublishing.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Lupita's results contained something I'd never seen before. When we examined her mitochondrial DNA, the genetic fingerprint passed down from mother to daughter across generations, we found that she carries DNA from the oldest maternal haplogroup, a very ancient branch of the mtDNA tree, just adjacent to what scientists call the mitochondrial Eve, the most recent woman from whom all living humans today descend. When mitochondrial Eve was walking around, there were no human beings alive outside of Africa. Everybody was black in the whole world.
I predate race.
You predate race. Yeah.
That's dope.
If there was no day or night, just a little bit more education and love for a nation will make a better society. Now some of us would rather cuss or make a fuss than to bring about a little trust. But we shall overcome, I believe, someday, if you'll only listen to what I have to say. And how long have you hated your white teacher? Who told you you love your black preacher? Do you respect your brother's woman friend? And share with black folks not of kin? I said now people must rule to the people. A better day is coming for you and for me. With just a little bit more education and love for a nation will make a better society. If you had a choice of colors, brother's woman friend, and share with black folks not of kin. A little bit more education and love for a nation will make a better society. If you had a choice of colors,
Angela Yvonne Davis, born on the 26th of January 1944 in the USA, American political activist, academic scholar and author. She was the leader of the Communist Party in the USA in the 1960s and worked with the Black Panther through her involvement in the civil rights movement. I salute and give thanks to the great Angela Davis, 76 tomorrow. One love, my sister.
And in my case, when I think about the fact that Ronald Reagan was the governor of California, Richard Nixon was the president of the U.S., the whole apparatus of the state was set up against me. They had all of their resources, and the FBI, the police, and they really meant to send me to the death chamber in order to make a point. It really didn't matter who I was, or it was that I was a very convenient figure to make a point that they would suppress any efforts at revolution and liberation.
A year ago, the Black Panthers were much more active. You heard much more about that type of struggle. Is the time of the Black Panthers past?
The Black Panthers still exist, and the Black Panthers are still extremely active in the Oakland community and in communities all over the country. I'm not sure whether you are aware of what is now happening in the Black Panther Party and the kinds of things that members of that party are doing now.
No, but tell me.
First of all, if you're going to talk about a revolutionary situation, you have to have people who are physically able to wage revolution, who are physically able to organize and physically able to do all that is done.
Yeah, but the question is more, how do you get there? Do you get there by confrontation, violence?
Oh, is that the question you were asking?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing. When you talk about a revolution, most people think violence, without realizing that the real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them. On the other hand, because of the way this society is organized, because of the violence that exists on the surface everywhere, you have to expect that there are going to be such explosions. You have to expect things like that as reactions. If you are a black person and live in the black community all your life and walk out on the street every day seeing white policemen surrounding you, when I was living in Los Angeles, for instance, long before the situation in LA ever occurred, I was constantly stopped. No, the police didn't know who I was, but I was a black woman, and I had a natural, and they, I suppose, thought that I might be a, quote, militant. And when you live under a situation like that constantly, and then you ask me, you know, whether I approve of violence. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Whether I approve of guns. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Some very, very good friends of mine were killed by bombs that were planted by racists. I remember from the time I was very small, I remember the sounds of bombs exploding across the street, our house shaking. I remember my father having to have guns at his disposal at all times because of the fact that at any moment we might expect to be attacked. The man who was at that time in complete control of the city government, his name was Bull Connor, would often get on the radio and make statements like, niggers have moved into a white neighborhood, we better expect some bloodshed tonight. And sure enough, there would be bloodshed. After the 4 young girls who lived, one of them lived next door to me. I was very good friends with the sister of another one. My sister was very good friends with all 3 of them. My mother taught one of them in her class. My mother, in fact, when the bombing occurred, one of the mothers of one of the young girls called my mother and said, can you take me down to the church to pick up Carol? We heard about the bombing, and I don't have my car. And they went down, and what did they find? They found limbs and heads strewn all over the place. And then after that, in my neighborhood, all of the men organized themselves into an armed patrol. They had to take their guns and patrol our community every night because they did not want that to happen again. I mean, that's why when someone asks me about violence, I just find it incredible. Because what it means is that the person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through. what black people have experienced in this country since the time the first black person was kidnapped from the shores of Africa.
Leroy Sibbles, born on the 29th of January 1949 in Kingston, Jamaica, singer and player of instrument, songwriter, music arranger and producer. He began singing in the 1950s and was taught to play the guitar by Trenchtown Rasta brother Huntley and Carrot. He joined the Heptones in 1965 as lead vocalist with Barry Llewellyn and Earl Morgan. He was also a session bassist and arranger at Studio One. He was described as, I quote, the greatest all-round talent in reggae history, unquote, by Kevin Chang and Wayne Chin in their 1998 book, Reggae Roots. Ireful Erstrong, Leroy Sibbles, 71 on the 29th of January. Salute.
We're speaking with Mr. Heptone himself, the legendary Leroy Sibbles.
Tell me, is that what's on your birth certificate?
Yes. Leroy Sibbles. It's only spelled differently on my birth certificate. So whenever I want someone like want to have me for travel, they got to make sure that they have the right spelling.
So the spelling we're accustomed to in our press is S-I-B-B-L-E-S.
Yes. But officially it's supposed to be L-I-S. Originally, my dad's name is L-I-E-S, so it's all complicated.
You're a singer-songwriter and you're a bass player.
Yes.
Which did you do first?
Oh, I was singing and writing songs for the Heptones first. That's where and arranging, because a lot of people didn't know this, and I wouldn't walk and tell people this because that's not me. But at the end of the day, now I have a story to tell. I have to say it, And the most 95% of the Heptones songs or works that we did was written and arranged by me. And that's where I learned arrangement. That's where I started doing my arranging. And then, I have all of that within me. So when I went to the studio, I started doing that, for other people. Because it was much easier, because I practiced at home with my guys first, And all of those oohs and ahs that these guys used to sing, I used to teach them individually. My guys, the Heptones. Yes,
And who are the names in the Heptones?
Yeah, it's Earl, Morgan, Barry Llewellyn. Barry Llewellyn, he passed away a few years ago. I'm glad that rest his soul, yes. And,
how did the Heptones get started?
Well, actually, back in Trenchtown, after I left school, I was doing electric arc welding as a trade.
You left which school?
Kingston Senior, and I did about a year and a half with Sir Warren Kidd. He had a private college, and I did about a year and a half. And after I did that, I went and learned a physical thing, and that was electrical welding, which I mastered that in no time. The guy, the boss would bring me my own blueprint to do work, as an apprentice, as an apprentice. So, I know that my head was flowing. I was like that. But
you grew up where?
Trenchtown. And Seaward Drive, because my dad used to, my mom and dad, while I was very young, they separated. So my dad, he was the guy, he was very progressive, He had trucks, he had stores, like grain stores, and he was very progressive. But yeah, my dad, he lived out of Trenchtown. My mom.
No, I was asking you if he's a good father.
Me?
If he
was, yeah. All his kids are very successful. So I would say he is, but he was very strict. So if that's meaning a great father, well, he was. Well, it's like that. Yes.
But you were telling me about how the Heptones.
Yes, I know. But I shared a little bit. So a little group was formed in Trenchtown, of which I was a backup singer, And there was a female doing lead.
Which group?
I forgot the name of the group. Like I said, it's Soulettes or something like that, but it wasn't really. I forgot the name right now. But, the girl was leading, and two guys, me and a guy called Winston, were backing up, And we were doing that for a little while. Earl and Barry heard of us. They lived across on the other side of Trenchtown. Well, I say on the other side, there was a gully, that separates my side from that side, So they're on the other side. Yes. So they heard of us and they came over. There were two guys, they called themselves the Mighty Squirrels. I never forget that because I said, squirrels! And they used to come over and they would jam, with us all. We would jam. Earl had a guitar. Even before I even thought of getting a guitar. And when I got my guitar, I surpassed them all because I was always like that, quick on the head, and I always want to, move. Yeah, so this group, the girl and me and the other guy, we went to Treasure Isle studio, and we did audition, and we were supposed to go back to recording, and we were accepted.
Where was Treasure Isle studio?
Bond Street, downtown.
Owned by whom?
By Duke Reed. Yeah. And we were supposed to go back, but somehow the group fell apart before we even went back just to do recording. And Earl and Barry, they came up one night and said they know of this guy downtown called Kenlock. He was seeking new artists. They needed people for recording. And I said, wow, there's a great thing happening here. And that said night I went home and I wrote 2 songs. And because this was a quick thing happening too, we had to be getting this done early because we don't know how long this guy was going to be out there. I mean, this little thing was happening for, so I want to catch it, catch this window, before it closed, right? So I wrote 2 songs, with Gunmen Coming to Town and another one called Schoolgirls, so we went and we practiced like about 2 or 3 days, quickly, bam, 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 and we went in and did audition, and the guy liked the songs and we recorded. Now, that's when I really got really up there in myself. Motivation now is to hide, hide because on the only radio station in Jamaica that was the Radio Fusion, that was like a cable box setup. And heard myself on the radio for the first time. Oh gosh, this was the greatest thing in my life.
Who heard it? You remember?
No. But I was running through the whole community.
So more from this guy who was interested in talent, and he made the record.
Yes.
It was on what label?
Kenlock. On the
So the label was Kenlock.
Kenlock, yes. On the Kenlock label, yes.
So what was on the label? Heptones?
Heptones, yeah.
So we get the name Heptones.
Earl Morgan came with the idea, and we said it sounded good because when I spelled it out or saw it written, I saw the Hep ones. I said that's great. Can help me in up lively. Ones is us 3.
How did he come up with the name?
So he saw it on some on a bottle. Some discarded bottle he saw, and figured that it was great, and we all accepted it, So it's really not just his alone concept, it was his idea, but we all had to agree to this. So it belonged to each and every one, because I could have said no, you know what I mean? So we all accepted it, so I guess it's partially all of us.
Our reunion would not be complete without a man called Leroy Sibbles. I think he is one of the backbones of Rocksteady, not only as a singer, but also as a musician.
Equal right. Of course. Fire, papa, fire, papa. Fire, papa, fire, papa. Fire, papa, fire, papa. Fire, papa, fire, papa. Now every man has an equal right to live and be free, no matter what color, class, or race he may be. Treat him right, Lord, and not treat him good. Take a tip from me, don't hang him on a tree. Never give against another man. Oh, everyone has an equal right to live and be free.
we had mostly love songs, yes, but we had other songs like, you know, Equal Rights, you know, a song like, you know, like I said, Fight It to the Top. You know, we had songs like Soul Power. Oh Lord, give me power each hour to set my people free. You know, these kind of, yeah, because we were touched by our condition and the state of sufferation that was all around us. We were always conscious of this, so we had to write these songs too. You know, we saw the plight of the poor man, and we were part of it too. So we had to be, you know, they were influence and inspirations of our environment.
I refer Earth Strong Princess B when the I Earth Strong arrives. All right, darling, have a wonderful, strong, full joy the I Earth Strong to the max. Give thanks, Princess Han, for all the I has done. Fireman and Drummy, respect and guidance. Appreciate love the I strength. One love, family. Player of instruments, saxophone and trumpeter. I refer Earth Strong greetings to the I Lester Sterling, 84 years old, on the 31st of January. I salute the I, sir. Full joy the I, Earth Strong, Iowa.
What was it like, Lester Sterling?
Well, it was really joyful to me, happy.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the band really started, you know, he was recording for Caxton, and certain songs it hit the public, like Tear Up on Bridgeview and so on, you know. So people start to say, we guys should get together and form a band. So Jerry is one of the first men who started saying that, really. And some of the guys never really interested in Jamaican music. They were more wanting to play jazz. So I was looking for a leader of this band now, the Scatterlight we're going to form. And Tommy Marcock was there, a good player, but he was interested in jazz. And I find out where he was playing his jazz. And I went there and talked to him, spoke to him. But it was by the End, a club where Caxton have a studio now. There was a there was a club right there, the End. It was controlled by Noel Tapin, so I heard, footballer. So I went there and talked to Tommy and told him about the band we're going to form.
Right.
And he decided to start playing ska music and so on. You know, so.
Well, let me ask you a question, Lester. Around what year? What year was that? About what time?
Well, as far as I can remember, my age was 27. So when it started, it was 1963.
1963. Anthony, you're talking about what? 50 plus years, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah.
52 years to be exact.
52 years to be exact. What was music like in Jamaica then, Lester? Because, well, I guess ska was the big thing then. What was it like for young musicians like yourself coming into the music business? What was it like?
It was really like putting your interest on your instrument. You know, that you get interested in music and that you practice and you want to hear yourself on the record, you know. So it was really encouraging to musicians.
You know,
and a lot of guys wasn't even out there playing at that time. Cedric Brooks wasn't there, you know.
Right.
So when I really started it with Caxton, it was like 1959.
Right.
That's way back.
Right.
And Rico Roderick, it was a good friend.
Yes, and Rico we just lost Rico a few weeks ago.
Yes, I heard. Sorry about that.
Yes, man. Yeah, man.
And Rico was living in Almantown, and I was living in Almantown, and Dan Drummond was living there also. You know.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with one of the original member of the Scatterlights band, the legendary Lester Sterling.
Here comes the man with the soul, Lester Sterling, with a thing called Spoogie.
Sealing up serious reasoning family and giving thanks to the eye for the eye most precious ears and the eye attention. Full joy the eye strong no matter what. Peace, guidance and protection and enough love to the eye. And do join I again in serious reasoning next strong on slrradio.co.uk to the world. Twinkle Stars up next, followed by Mandingo with news, views, worldwide issues with great music. And I are saying strong greetings to Sister Angela Davis, Bogle, Avion Blackman, Leroy Sibbles, Nambo, and also hailing up Sister Paulette and DJ Robbie, and remembering King Tubbies, Ronnie Davis, and Lloydie Ricketts. One Perfect Love Thriller, Axilla, Father Ted Rass Jr., Cosmic Rass, and Little Dread Salute. And giving thanks to DJ Cowboy, enough love and enough strength to the I, my brother. Have a great strong. I'm Iyata, and I'm out. Twinkle Star Iowa up next. One Love Princess Nins, give thanks, darling.
Sista Iyata, she and the daughter, we're hunting Rastafari hard.
Ireful greetings, Twinkle Stars, and welcome to the Twinkle Star Iowa in a new strong. Hope the I are well and looking forward to the I greatness. Remember, no one has to be great to start, but the I has to start. But the I has to start to be great. And when the I is thankful for all the I has, then the I will achieve more. Keep learning and fear nothing. Everyone on earth was a child once. Welcome forward. Good to be in the I presence in the new strong. Let's rock the last strong of this knowledge. New knowledge coming up next strong. More love and more strength to the eye, darlings. Welcome forward. Let's rock knowledge.
Twinkle Stars Iowa. Every Monday between 4 and 5 on SLR. Sista Iyata style.
Hey, Black Child by County Color. Hey, Black Child, do you know who you are? Who you really are? Do you know you can be what you want to be if you try to be what you can be? Hey, Black Child, do you know where you're going? Where you're really going? Do you know you can learn what you want to learn if you try to learn what you can learn? Hey, Black Child, do you know you are strong? I mean really strong? Do you know you can do what you want to do if you try to do what you can do? Hey, Black Child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow your nation will be what you want it to be.
I am Brahanton Sai. This is the Twinkle Star Iowa.
We can do it. We shall do it.
1 times table. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 1 equals 2. 3 times 1 equals 3. 4 times 1 equals 4. 5 times 1 equals 5. 6 times 1 equals 6. 7 times 1 equals 7. 8 times 1 equals 8. 9 times 1 equals 9. 10 times 1 equals 10. 11 times 1 equals 11. 12 times 1 equals 12. 2 times table. 2 times 1 equals 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. 3 times 2 equals 6. 4 times 2 equals 8. 5 times 2 equals 10. 6 times 2 equals 12. 7 times 2 equals 14. 8 times 2 equals 16. 9 times 2 equals 18. 10 times 2 equals 20. 11 times 2 equals 22. 12 times 2 equals 24. 3 times table. 1 times 3 equals 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. 3 times 3 equals 9. 4 times 3 equals 12. 5 times 3 equals 15. 6 times 3 equals 18. 7 times 3 equals 21. 8 times 3 equals 24. 9 times 3 equals 27. 10 times 3 equals 30. 11 times 3 equals 33. 12 times 3 equals 36. 4 times table. 1 times 4 equals 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. 3 times 4 equals 12. 4 times 4 equals 16. 5 times 4 equals 20. 6 times 4 equals 24. 7 times 4 equals 28. 8 times 4 equals 32. 9 times 4 equals 36. 10 times 4 equals 40. 11 times 4 equals 44. 12 times 4 equals 48. 5 times table. 1 times 5 equals 5. 2 times 5 equals 10. 3 times 5 equals 15. 4 times 5 equals 20. 5 times 5 equals 25. 6 times 5 equals 30. 7 times 5 equals 35. 8 times 5 equals 40. 9 times 5 equals 45. 10 times 5 equals 50. 11 times 5 equals 55. 12 times 5 equals 60. 6 times table. 1 times 6 equals 6. 2 times 6 equals 12. 3 times 6 equals 18. 4 times 6 equals 24. 5 times 6 equals 30. 6 times 6 equals 36. 7 times 6 equals 42. 8 times 6 equals 48. 9 times 6 equals 54. 10 times 6 equals 60. 11 times 6 equals 66. 12 times 6 equals 72.
7 times tables. 1 times 7 equals 7. 2 times 7 equals 14. 3 times 7 equals 21. 4 times 7 equals 28. 5 times 7 equals 35. 6 times 7 equals 42. 7 times 7 equals 49. 8 times 7 equals 56. 9 times 7 equals 63. 10 times 7 equals 70. 11 times 7 equals 77. 12 times 7 equals 84. 8 times tables.
This is now the children's hour on SLR. Iyata style.
1 times 8 equals 8. 2 times 8 equals 16. 3 times 8 equals 24. 4 times 8 equals 32. 5 times 8 equals 40. 6 times 8 equals 48. 7 times 8 equals 56. 8 times 8 equals 64. 9 times 8 equals 72. 10 times 8 equals 80. 11 times 8 equals 88. 12 times 8 equals 96. 9 times tables. 1 times 9 equals 9. 2 times 9 equals 18. 3 times 9 equals 27. 4 times 9 equals 36. 5 times 9 equals 45. 6 times 9 equals 54. 7 times 9 equals 63. 8 times 9 equals 72. 9 times 9 equals 81. 10 times 9 equals 90. 11 times 9 equals 99. 12 times 9 equals 108. 10 times tables. 1 times 10 equals 10. 2 times 10 equals 20. 3 times 10 equals 30. 4 times 10 equals 40. 5 times 10 equals 50. 6 times 10 equals 60. 7 times 10 equals 70. 8 times 10 equals 80. 9 times 10 equals 90. 10 times 10 equals 100. 11 times 10 equals 110. 12 times 10 equals 120. 11 times tables. 1 times 11 equals 11. 2 times 11 equals 22. 3 times 11 equals 33. 4 times 11 equals 44. 5 times 11 equals 55. 6 times 11 equals 66. 7 times 11 equals 77. 8 times 11 equals 88. 9 times 11 equals 99. 10 times 11 equals 110. 11 times 11 equals 121. 12 times 11 equals 132. 12 times tables. 1 times 12 equals 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. 3 times 12 equals 36. 4 times 12 equals 48. 5 times 12 equals 60. 6 times 12 equals 72. 7 times 12 equals 84. 8 times 12 equals 96. 9 times 12 equals 108. 10 times 12 equals 120. 11 times 12 equals 132. 12 times 12 equals 144.
We can do it. We will. We shall do it. We can do it. We will. We shall do it.
Twinkle Stars, let's rock political terms. Learn all that I can about it because there's lots of political talk going on right now. Just want to make sure that I understand the terms that they are now using. One love, Twinkle Stars.
The word democracy comes from the Greek words of demos, which means people, and kratos, which means power or rule. So democracy basically means the rule of the people. Democracy first started as a direct democracy in Greek cities, notably ancient Athens, where people came together to speak about their concerns and opinions in front of rulers of the city-state and directly voted on new rules and laws. Here is considered as the birthplace of democracy. For the very first time, decisions were made by the people instead of rulers. But sadly, the ancient Greeks did not see all people equally. Slaves, women, children, and the people who did not have a land weren't allowed to vote. This is what we call a flawed democracy today. After the Greeks lost their power and influence in the 1st century AD, their early forms of democracy were also fading away until the Magna Carta was signed in 1215, which prevented the King of England to do whatever he wanted and said that even the king had to follow the country's rules and laws which were written in the Constitution. Today, most democracies are indirect or representative, which means that you can't vote for a new law yourself, but you can vote for people who then become lawmakers and present your interests. But democracy isn't just about voting. It's about everything to protect the best interests of the people, no matter what is their race, gender, political opinion, or religion. These interests can be human rights, quality of life, infrastructure, and many more. Modern democracies divide power into 3 different branches: the legislative, the people who make the law; the executive, the people who make sure that you obey the law; and the judiciary, who judge you if you commit a crime. These 3 are independent and work following the process, checks and balances, which means all the work must be clear and fair. And very important, the people who have power also must follow the law and not exceed their authority. In addition, a democratic government must work in a way that reflects the wish, feeling, desire, and values of the society that it governs. This is also known as the general will, which is a concept developed by the famous Swiss philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. One of the problems of democratic voting is that the biggest groups of people always have the most power, and that's why a good democracy also has laws to protect the rights of its smaller and weaker groups. A democracy where the majority chooses to separate, expel, or injure its minority is not a functioning democracy. So, what do you think now about democracy?
This is now the Children's Hour on Xtra, Iyata style.
Capitalism, socialism, and communism are all political and economic models. Capitalism. In capitalist societies, products and services are provided by the individual. These individuals employ workers and are allowed to keep the profit from the excess production the workers create. This system incentivizes individuals to come up with ways of generating wealth for themselves. Competition between rival businesses occurs naturally. This leads to more productivity, which in turn generates wealth and advancement for the rest of society. Karl Marx, a German philosopher, identified that the capitalist model created a sharp divide between the wealthier citizens and the poorest. He felt the system exploited the worker, and he promoted the socialist model, which he hoped would later develop into communism. Socialism. In socialist societies, it is the government who own and operate the means for production, i.e. land, natural resources, factories, etc. The citizens earn a wage but only receive what they need. The aim of the game is equality between all people and the elimination of social classes. Marx envisioned that a successful socialist model would morph into communism. Communism. In communism, it is the working class who own everything, and what the collective produces as a whole is shared out according to need. Socialism, communism, and capitalism in the real world. When socialist models are applied in countries, some fundamental issues with the system come to light. As socialism does not reward the individual to produce more than anyone else, there is no incentive to think outside the box and find ways of creating more production and therefore more wealth. This then leads to low production, which then creates mass poverty. No country has ever developed into a communist country in the strict sense of what communism means. Countries which have adopted socialism has seen rampant corruption, with people in power abusing their positions. Instead of working toward a society where they can give up their power, they instead work to consolidate it. However, there are countries who have seen success combining both capitalist and socialist ideals. For example, Northern European countries reward the individual for excess production, but a heavy system of taxation helps redistribute wealth amongst the collective. So even though everyone may not be equal, there is a certain standard of living that all citizens will enjoy, and social and class differences are not so extreme. And that, in a nutshell, is capitalism, socialism, and communism explained.
SLR, we have the power. This is now the Children's Hour on SLR.
Have you ever wondered how we can obtain food, clothes, and everything else that we need to be able to live? Well, the answer is easy peasy. We get these things by working. That's why it's so important to study, because this way we can choose our future correctly, and then we can end up doing what we love. A job is simply something that a person does in exchange for money or another benefit. But because not all jobs are the same, we classify them into three large groups: the primary sector, the secondary sector, and lastly, the tertiary sector. To start off with, the primary sector includes all jobs that obtain raw materials directly from nature, like this farmer, or this stockman. But before I continue, do you know what raw materials are? Well, it's easy peasy. Raw materials are resources that humans obtain from nature, and they can be directly consumed, or they can be made and transformed into consumer goods. The fruit and fish we eat, the wool we get from sheep, to manufacture warm clothes, like this sweatshirt, or steel, with which we can produce tools, or aeroplanes. So, all of these things are called raw materials. Agriculture, fishing, livestock, logging, and mining are all jobs in the primary sector. Then we have the secondary sector. This is the sector that transforms the raw materials into elaborated final products, like cheese that comes from milk, or this car that has lots of raw materials within it, and one of them being steel. So, industry, crafts, and construction all form part of the secondary sector. The tertiary sector doesn't have products. Instead, it offers services. Education, healthcare, trade, and transport are all part of the tertiary sector. For example, doctors heal us. Teachers teach us. And hairdressers cut our hair and leave us this beautiful. As you can see, these professions, these jobs, aren't offering material goods. But they help and protect us. They are offering super important services. Well, now we know what jobs are and how they are classified into sectors. Primary sector, the secondary sector, and finally the tertiary sector. Now, all I need to say is that you study and work really, really hard, because this will mean that you can have whatever job you want, and this way you'll be really happy. So goodbye, friends, see you next time, and I hope you're always ready to learn.
Twinkle Stars Iowa. Every Monday between 4 and 5 on SLR. Sista Iyata style.
How do I become a scientist?
Well, that's easy. All you have to do is love nature. If you love nature and you're curious about, let's say, how a tree grows or how a pool ball rolls along a table, then that's it. You're a scientist. And the next step is basically all you have to do in school is develop the skills to pursue those curiosities. And that can happen by taking science classes, that's obvious, or even taking art classes. Why? Well, because the skills that you learn in those classes will help you pursue your interests. And that's what a scientist does. He takes those talents and skills and applies them to understanding how that tree grows or how that pool ball rolls along the table.
What kind of work do scientists do?
Well, there's quite a few jobs that scientists do. For instance, here at the Eye Institute, we have medical doctors who take care of eye diseases. We have research scientists who work in laboratories who study how we see. And then there are scientists like myself who work as science writers who take all that great information that these doctors and research scientists produce and turn them into stories that you can understand.
We can do it. We will. We shall do it.
Did you know that our brain doesn't hurt? If we were poked in the brain, we wouldn't feel anything because the brain doesn't feel pain. Don't get on your nerves when we are stressed. Meaning, when we are very, very nervous, our brain shrinks. It becomes smaller and works worse. So you know, we need to relax. Do you know how much our brain weighs? Well, our brain weighs 1.5 kilos. The truth is, I thought it weighed a lot less. Can you hear it? It's laughter. Laughter is very good for our brain. When we laugh, our brain is also happy. And it makes us think more clearly and be more positive. So everyone, let's laugh. brain never rests. When we sleep, our brain is still active, and thanks to it, our heart keeps pumping and our lungs keep breathing. The human body is incredible, isn't it? So it works better. We need to do a lot of physical and mental exercise. The more we use it, the more it works. Goodbye, happy friends.
This is now the Children's Hour on SLR. Iyata style.
Why do we have our belly button? What is it used for? Before we are born, while we are still in our mother's bellies, we didn't feed through our mouths. Nope. We fed through the umbilical cord. This cord, which united the mother and her child, is in charge of taking oxygen and nutrients to the baby. And thanks to this, it can develop and live. At birth, doctor cuts the umbilical cord, since the baby can now start to feed orally. That means it can eat through its mouth, like all of us. Once the umbilical cord is cut, a small piece is left on the baby. But with time, this piece falls off as a souvenir of when we were still in our mother's womb. That scar, that small hole we call our belly button. I'm sure that's from now on, every time you look at your belly button, you remember your beloved mother.
Hey, the
Goodbye,
management and staff of SLR Radio wishes every one of their listeners within our radio wishes.
Beneath your ribs, you'll find, among other things, the pancreas, an organ that works a lot like a personal health coach. This organ controls your sugar levels and produces a special juice that releases the nutrients from your food to help keep you in the best possible shape. The pancreas sits just behind your stomach, an appropriate home, as one of its jobs is to break down the food you eat. It aids digestion by producing a special tonic made of water, sodium bicarbonate, and digestive enzymes. Sodium bicarbonate neutralizes the stomach's natural acidity, so these digestive enzymes can perform their jobs. Lipase breaks down fatty substances, protease splits up proteins, and amylase divides carbohydrates to create energy-rich sugars. Most of those nutrients then get absorbed into the bloodstream and go on to enrich the body. While all this is happening, the pancreas works on another critical task, controlling the amount of sugar in your blood. It achieves this with the hormones insulin and glucagon, which are produced in special cells called the islets of Langerhans. Having too much or too little sugar can be life-threatening, so the pancreas must stay on constant alert. After a big meal, the blood often becomes flushed with sugar. To bring us back to normal, the pancreas releases insulin, which makes the excess sugar move into cells where it's either used as an energy source or stored for later. Insulin also tells the liver to shut down sugar production. On the other hand, if blood sugar is low, the pancreas releases a hormone called glucagon that tells the body's cells and liver to release stored sugars back into the bloodstream. The interplay between insulin and glucagon is what keeps our sugar levels balanced. But a faulty pancreas can no longer coach us like this, meaning that this healthy balance is destroyed. If it's weakened by disease, the organ's ability to produce insulin may be reduced or even extinguished, which can trigger the condition known as diabetes. Without regular insulin release, sugar steadily builds up in the blood, eventually hardening the blood vessels and causing heart attacks, kidney failure, and strokes. The same lack of insulin deprives cells of the energy-rich sugar they need to grow and function. People with diabetes also tend to have higher levels of glucagon, which makes even more sugar circulate. Without this internal health coach, our sugar levels would go haywire, and we wouldn't be able to digest important nutrients. But like any coach, it's not the pancreas's job alone to keep us healthy. It needs our conscious participation too.
This is now the Children's Hour on SLR, Iyata style.
Visiting the bathroom is part of the daily human experience, but occasionally, constipation strikes, a condition that causes a backup in your digestive system. The food you eat can take several days to exit your body, and for many, constipation can become chronic, meaning regularly passing lumpy, hard stools accompanied by straining. What's behind this unsettling phenomenon? Constipation arises in the colon, also known as the large intestine. This muscular organ is split into 4 sections, the ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid colon, which connects with the rectum and anus. The small intestine delivers stool consisting of ingested food, bile, and digestive juices to the large intestine. As this stool moves through the colon, the organ siphons off most of the water it contains, transforming it from liquid to solid. The longer this transmission takes, the more reabsorption occurs, resulting in increasingly solid stool. Once it reaches the sigmoid colon, a final bout of reabsorption occurs before it enters the rectum, distending its walls and telling the internal anal sphincter to relax. This is the point where you can usually decide whether to physically expel or retain the stool. That's regulated by the pelvic floor muscles, particularly the puborectalis and external anal sphincter. The puborectalis forms a sling-like formation around the rectum, called the anorectal angle. And when you voluntarily relax your external anal sphincter, the stool is finally expelled. When you're constipated, however, a desire to visit the bathroom isn't enough to coax your body into action. Usually there's 2 factors behind this problem: the stool's slow movement through the colon and/or pelvic floor dysfunction. In the first, stool moves excessively slowly through the intestines, causing overabsorption of liquid, which makes the stool dry and hard. With pelvic floor dysfunction, stool becomes difficult to eliminate from the rectum because of tightened pelvic floor muscles, or due to a pelvic organ prolapse, usually through childbirth or aging. Both of these problems make the anorectal angle more acute, and it becomes difficult to expel waste. To identify constipation precisely, researchers have developed metrics such as the Bristol stool chart. Most people who look at that chart will be able to tell they've experienced constipation before. When you're on the toilet, you should ideally be in a squatting position. With your buttocks firmly on the toilet seat, you can elevate your feet on a stool and lean forwards with a straight back, which straightens the anorectal angle and eases the passage of waste. Going a day without a bowel movement isn't necessarily cause for alarm, but if you are experiencing chronic constipation, simple dietary and lifestyle changes like fibrous vegetables, regular exercise, abdominal massage, and 6 to 8 cups of water per day may help restore your daily trip to the toilet.
I take a sip of cool, clear water. I take a sip, another sip, a sip of cool, clear water. I drink a glass, but not too fast, a glass of cool, clear water. I drink it slow, it's best you know, to sip some cool, clear water. I drink more water every day of the week. I drink less juice, it's too sweet for my teeth. And I feel great from my head to my feet, 'cause water makes my body work better. Now when it's hot, it's really hot, I need to drink more water. 'Cause when I sweat, you can bet, I need to drink more water. Or when I'm out, running about, I need to drink more water. Won't overheat, I have a seat and sip some cool, clear water. I drink more water every day of the week. I drink less juice, it's too sweet for my teeth. And I feel great from my head to my feet, 'cause water makes my body
This is now the Children's Hour on SLR.
Belly breathing. In this mindfulness practice, you will learn a deep breathing technique. Sit on the floor and cross your legs, or sit upright in your chair. Everyone take a deep breath in. Did your shoulders rise and your chest go out? This is most people's response, but it is incorrect. When we breathe in deeply, our shoulders should stay still and our stomachs should go out. This is because our diaphragm, a muscle under our lungs and above our stomachs, flattens and pushes out our stomach area, which is why we call it belly breathing. This is how singers and actors breathe to use their voice properly. Belly breathing instantly increases the amount of oxygen in our bloodstream. It calms our nervous system and releases feel-good chemicals into our bodies, so it is a key part of mindfulness. So, let's begin. Put your hands on your belly. Imagine you have a balloon in there, and when you breathe in, you're filling the balloon up with air and making your belly blow up. Breathe out and let the air out of the balloon. Your belly should go in and your hands go down. Let's repeat that. Breathe in through your nose, fill the balloon up with air. Now breathe out of your mouth, let the air out of the balloon. Let's keep going. In through your nose. Now breathe out through your mouth and flatten the balloon in your stomach. You shouldn't hear your breath go in. If you can, this means you're breathing too quickly. Breathe in and blow up the balloon, and breathe out again. Keep your back and your shoulders still. Nowhere apart from your stomach and chest should be moving. Breathe in and breathe out. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathe in and breathe out. One more time in and last time out. Well done. Don't worry if you found this challenging. It will take a lot of practice before deep belly breathing becomes natural and easy. You should now feel relaxed as you have increased the oxygen into your bloodstream, calmed your nervous system, and released lots of feel-good chemicals into your bodies. You can do your belly breathing at any time, in any place. Even a couple of belly breaths will calm you down, wherever you are. Try it whenever you next feel worried.
We can do it. We will. We shall do it.
This device allows its controller to tune in to different frequencies. We know them as channels. A frequency is the rate at which something occurs or is repeated over a particular period of time. In the context of television, a band of frequencies is used to show a music video, sitcom, movie, or animation. When a viewer tunes in, the program now has access to his or her brain. Inside the brain are mirror neurons, which causes humans to mimic what they see. So when we allow our children to watch television, we have to be very mindful of what frequency they are on. I highly recommend that children tune into edutainment shows that promote favorable self-images, heighten self-esteem, and cultivate a sense of self-awareness.
Let's begin with Queen Iyata Yala from the Kingdom of Wallo in Senegal. Queen Iyata is considered one of the greatest rulers in Senegalese history, and she's perhaps the most famous woman in 19th century Senegambia. She played a crucial role for the sovereignty in her region. After the fall of the Jolof Empire in Senegal, various kingdoms began to seize power in the region. the Kingdom of Wallo being one of them. Wallo wanted to maintain their assets, especially against their French neighbors in St. Louis, who wanted to rid themselves of the expensive trade and customs dealings with Wallo, as goods had to pass through their country in order to perform business. Commercial expansion in West Africa was very important to the French, and so pressure was mounting. Queen Ndate Iyala came to power during this boiling point. In 1847, Queen Ndate remained stern against the French as she continued to tax the French every time they passed through her land. After French protests, this is what the Queen had to say: "We have wronged no one because the country belongs to us and we must govern it. It is we who guarantee the passage of livestock in our country. For this reason, we will take a tenth and we will never accept otherwise. St. Louis belongs to the governor, Kayer to the Damo, and Wallo to the Braque. Each of these leaders governs his country as he sees fit." The Queen was well aware of French ambition and did not allow any concessions with them. As new French settlers moved into the region, they increasingly refused to pay tribute to Wallo, and the Queen decided to act. Queen Ndate did not hesitate to plunder the island around St. Louis Island, where the French settlers were, and she forbade any travel into her region for trade. The French decided that the only way in which to have any economic advantage in the region was to take Wallo. After months of battle, the Queen and her husband refused to submit to the French invasion of their country. She even mobilized more forces to counter the French. In 1855, French forces and their African allies were too much for the Kingdom of Wallo. Even in defeat, the Queen still tried to rally the troops. She fought until the very end. Her loyalty and dedication to her people is testament to her great legacy, and she's honored in Senegal today because of it. Next, we have the only successful ruler to resist colonial aggression on our list, Shangamire Dumbo. In the 17th century, Portuguese ambition became more and more clear in the Zimbabwe area. The Portuguese began to dominate the area south of the Zambezi River, especially because the kingdom of Mwene Mutapa was declining due to succession disputes. This decline prompted local princes to ask Portugal for aid in acquiring the Mwene Mutapa throne. With the decline of Mwene Mutapa and more Portuguese control, local Shona rulers developed their own armies. One of these rulers distinguished himself militarily, and he became known as Shangamire Dumbo, the ruler and founder of the Rosvi Empire. They were known as the Destroyers because they destroyed everything in their path, including the Portuguese and their African allies. By the 1670s, the Shangamire, or ruler, and his men became a major force in the northeast Zimbabwe plateau. He challenged the Portuguese near the Zambezi River at the Battle of Mwangwe, a battle in which he was victorious. Shangamire Dumbo continued to wreak havoc on the Portuguese, and in some cases even humiliated them in some engagements, defiling their graves and sacred images. The Rosvi threat, solely initiated by the great Shangamire Dumbo, accompanied by other factors, prompted many Portuguese settlers to leave the plateau altogether. Under the rule of Shangamire Dumbo, Portuguese colonial ambition never met its true potential. Last but not least, we have Samori Toure. Samori Toure was a 19th century ruler of a largely Mande-speaking empire in West Africa during French colonial intrusion. How he was able to form a state in the middle of French colonial ambition was quite impressive. The beginning of his military career began with an invading army of Cisse warriors who took control of his hometown. He later joined this army and quickly rose to high rank because of his extraordinary intelligence and military skill. Samori soon broke away from the army and formed his own loyal group that began to extend their authority. They demonstrated extraordinary tactical ability under Toure's leadership and posed a huge threat to the French. Upon the formation of his own empire, Samori Toure knew it was important to unify family clans and ethnic groups who were previously at war with one another. Soon, Samori became a ruler who possessed a field army of 10,000 to 12,000 well-armed, highly trained soldiers. Samori Toure tried to expand his empire along trade routes, but the West African Muslim empires had begun to suffer the encroachment of European colonial powers, and he came up against the French imperialist expansion at Bamako. He was able to maintain a semblance of his empire through minor fighting and treaties, and he also used relations with the British in Sierra Leone to supply his armies with rifles from Freetown. Through some great leadership and tactical maneuvers, Samori was able to hold off French troops while simultaneously carving out a new state in the region of present-day Ghana and the Ivory Coast. This was very impressive. Because of his accomplishments, some scholars compare him with other great conquerors in world history. The French and their African allies eventually got the upper hand in 1898 and finally ended Samori Toure's empire. Samori Toure could have easily given in to French colonialism in attempts to position himself as a sort of puppet ruler to aid the French in maintaining power, but he chose to fight, unify, and advance African sovereignty. And he and all the others in this video should be remembered for that. Well, I'm all out, guys.
You ready, Sam?
Yeah.
We tell everybody what they can be when they grow up. They can be anything. You ready?
Yes.
Let's go.
You can be an A. You can be an architect. Get a building to kiss the sky. You can be a B. You can be a biochemist. Make medicine save lives. You can be a C. Computer software developer. Or programs that sound and files. You can be a D. You can be a dentist. Cause everybody loves to smile. You can be an E. You can be an engineer. Solve problems of all kinds. Chemical, mechanical, electrical. Use the power of your mind. You can be an S. You can be a firefighter. Fight fires in red trucks. You can be a G. Gastroenterologist. Deal with problems in the gut. You can be an H. Hospital administrator. Hospitals need leaders. You can be an I. Intelligence officer. The FBI kind of people. You can be a J. You can be a judge. Help people who seek justice. You can be a K. Kindergarten teacher. Those kids are young and restless. You can be an L. You can be a lawyer. Cause people need to know their rights. You can be an M. Mobile app developer. Like the people that made Fortnite. You can be an N. You can be a nurse. Medical care for the masses. You can be an O. Optometrist. For people that need eyeglasses. You can be a P. Paramedic. For medical emergencies. You can be a Q. Quantum physicist. For particles and energy. You can be an R. Researcher. Find cures for disease. You can be an S. Stockbroker. You get to work with money. You can be a T. Truck mechanic. Trucks are critical transportation. You can be a U. University president. For the future of your nation. You can be a V. Video game designer. Or Xboxes and PlayStations. You can be a W. Web developer. It's an online occupation. Now take that S. You can be your own big impact on the world. And with that Y, you can be your own boss. Tell me boy and girl. And with that Z, Z is you strive. You can reach sky if you try. Just don't be a Z. Just don't be a zombie. And let the world pass you by.